Hello, everyone. It's Kim. Thanks for joining me today. We are nearing the end of October, and with that, my favorite holiday will be over. So, I wanted to take today to share some final Halloween ideas. And this time, they're going to be more on the quirky side and the non traditional color side. These won't be your normal, everyday Halloween ideas. So, I want to start first with Frank, and I combined Frank, which is an older die, with a newer Spellbinders die. I figured every year people dress up like Frankenstein, so why can't Frank dress up like a sports fan? So that's what he's doing here. He's a sports fan. He can be any team, any sport that you want. I gave him the number 13. I debated between 13 and 31. I decided 13 worked. So let me show you what I used to make this card and then something that I'm going to add on to him. So Frank's head is from an older Spellbinders die. It's called Let's Be Frank. This is a nice size head, and I love this die, and I now have a larger shirt, so those work together great. The shirt is from the Athletic Apparel collection from Spellbinder, so this came out really recently. So I combined a bunch of the dies for this. His shirt and the numbers are from the jersey numbers. Now, because these are all short sleeve shirts, I had to make his sleeves, and that's not a big deal. Just cut 2 strips of paper, but then I needed some hands, and I didn't want to hunt everywhere and decide how could I make some hands for Frank. And I knew I had this die that we looked at last time from Karen, Halloween Elements, and it has these witches' hands. But I thought, you know what? Even though they're kind of slender fingers for Frank, they still work. I don't think anybody's going to sit there and think, oh, those are awful skinny hands for him. They work. And as I recall, his fingernails are painted. I don't know if they're black or red. I can't remember. But I just took a little fine marker and gave him some fingernails there, just a little detail. Now, if I were sending this to somebody, I would find out what kind of sports they were into, and then that's the sports fan that Frank would dress up as. So I decided that my recipient is going to be a rugby player, and so I took the rugby stick from the sporting goods set and then just put some candy or corn candy in there that he's catching, and then that'll be perfect for my recipient. Now, if your recipient was into football or basketball or one of these other sports, it would be easy to alter this a little bit. Say he needed to hold on to one of the balls. You could easily just cut his arm so that it bent a little bit and then tuck that ball in by his elbow or maybe into his hand. So easy to alter him. I just think he came out great. I love that head, and again, he might as well dress up and enjoy Halloween as well. Now, the next card is probably going to look a little more traditional, but I wanted to experiment with this. And let me just show you the card and then we can talk about it, because I did learn a few things when I played with this new die from Karen. So this is the pop-up die, and this is using the stocking pop-up. So obviously I didn't use the stocking, but you can see how my ghost comes up and down. So let me tell you what I used, and then I want to talk about something that I learned on the inside with this die. So the die for the inside is the stocking pop-up. Again, I need this for the mechanism, even though I'm not using the stocking. And then for the outside of the card, some of the decoration is from Tim's last collection, or his last Halloween collection, I should say. This is graveyard, so I used the fence, the gravestone, and on the inside, the same thing. The gravestones and the fence all come from this die. Then there's that great moon die, and this one is called Moonlight. So on the outside, this is the larger of the two dies with a couple bats. On the inside, I used the smaller moon. And then for the inside of the card, I used this card. We're going to talk about this just a second, and something that I've learned here. This is Road Trip. So again, this has probably been my most used Tim die this year. And then the ghosts and the little boo come from Halloween Wonder from Spellbinder. So this is with the Envelope of Wonder collection. Let me share with you what I learned on this because I did try to think ahead, but I did have a couple surprises. So this car is fairly long, and I knew I needed to center this upper part so that my ghost would come up in the window. And I had the kind of prototype, my sample, just plain white card that I had made with the mechanism, and I kind of laid the car out on that. So on this platform, it does fold right here, and I knew there was no way my car would fold, so I cut it and put it on either side of that fold line there. So that worked good. So I thought, oh, I've got it made. I did the same thing with the moon. I cut it in half so it would cross over that fold and the card would fold nicely. So I put my car on, put this front half, folded it up, and this car was too long. It stuck out probably a good quarter of an inch. So I thought, oh, I'm going to have to alter the car. But I had everything on here. I was just disappointed I didn't think of that ahead of time because I could have easily switched this from a vertical A2 to a horizontal. And if I had my 5.5 inches or my 5.5 inches, going this way, my car would have stayed inside the card base. But I wasn't going to rip it all apart. So what I did is I shortened the car. I just cut off the end of it and then squished it in here and trimmed this up a little bit. I made it black on the end so you really can't tell. If I turn it up, I left this so you could see kind of where I move this little piece over. So it still works. Hopefully whoever gets this card is looking more at the ghost coming up and down and not really inspecting the back end of my car. But I made it work. I know from the future if I have something really long and I want an A2 card, I need just to flip the card base because I would have had plenty of room up this going this way for everything to work in this card. So that's what I learned on this mechanism. Again, I like to play and try some different things out, and that's how I learn what does and what doesn't work and what to look for in the future. The next card is more traditional, but this is using a new die and an old die, and a young witch and an old witch. So these are Tim's dies as far as the witches are concerned. This little one here, the younger witch, is from this year's Halloween collection called Halloween Night. So I just used the larger die because she's by herself. And then this older witch we looked at earlier because I used the cat, but now I'm using the witch. And this is called Witchcraft. And I just like the combination of the young and old together. Not really spooky. The cauldron is from Karen Burniston's last release, The Witch and Cauldron. And that was just a nice size cauldron. One thing that I did do on this is I have all these other layers going over it, and I didn't want the cauldron sticking up so much. So I actually die cut into my card base, and I didn't back this yet so I could turn it over. And then I dropped that cauldron in and just taped it so it's smooth along the base. So hopefully it doesn't look like my broom, her broom is just ready to catch fire, that it's maybe sticking out in front. Put some gems in there from Spellbinders, those sequins without the holes. And then I needed a little something up here in the corner. So Halloween Wonder has this nice little web, and that just fit in that corner perfectly. So I really do like this. It's a 6x6 card. So it's large, but I like the old and the young witch together using a new and older die. The next one is the non-traditional colors. Debbie Adams, who is on Tim's design team, made a Halloween card with a pink pumpkin, and I just love that pink pumpkin. So I thought I'm going to play with that idea and non-traditional colors. So this uses Karen's stocking pop-up die again, but very different colors and not scary at all. So let me show you this one, and I also learned something else with this die set again. So here's the pumpkin. I did use the pumpkin and the clouds. This is Edison. And then on the inside, I used some more of the Spellbinders collection, the Gnome Drive Holiday. So my car and the gnome came from this die. And then they have the Gnome Drive Halloween. So I've got my pumpkin balloon, my kitty cat, and I even have the little ghost coming out of the front end of the car there. And then for this pink pumpkin on the inside, that's from the Autumn Wonder set. Just had it handy, worked perfect. I could make another pink pumpkin, and on all of these, I have used backgrounds that I had already made and just dug out of my background pile. One thing I learned on this, so I have a piece of acetate here because this little string, there was no way that that would be strong enough to go up and down on the mechanism here. So I've backed the string with a little piece of acetate. And again, I had this down and pulled it back up and made some alterations to it. So the mechanism, and let me see if I can show you on this one better. I don't know, it's so dark here, you may not be able to see this, but the mechanism does kind of come up, and I trimmed it down. So this would come up and come around, and I'm sorry that I don't have, let's see if I can show you on the die here. If I can find the die. Okay, here we go. So this is the inner mechanism that whatever you have attached to it goes up and down. So it's curved here, but it showed too much under the acetate. So I took this off and I trimmed down so that it is even. And let me just show you this. Might as well do this right here. I trimmed this off to this flap. Now it was already attached to the card, so I just had to be kind of careful when I did that. But I didn't want to trim down onto this little piece here. And that is, you see that little piece pop up here, but it's trimmed smooth, so I don't have this huge black piece pop up behind. So long way to tell you, I made some alterations on this, but feel free to try things like that, I guess is my point, because now I know what I can trim down, and if I want something more clear or acetate popping up, I can do that. So don't be afraid to play around. Again, if you're not sure, do it before you use up all your good paper and see if your idea works. And then the Happy Halloween is from Karen Berniston's new dice set. I will put that on the product list. So fun card, non-traditional colors. And then for the last cards I want to share with you, when Karen came out with these dice, I was like, somehow I want to put those together with a skeleton. I don't know why I thought a skeleton and dice would look great together. So I have several skeletons, and I made them all try out to see which worked best. So the dice come from the game charms, and then the skeleton is from Tim's collection last year. This is called Mr. Bones. So he worked good, and he's just throwing the dice. Again, this might be kind of odd, but I like the idea. Maybe you know somebody who likes to roll dice or play dice. So this is just a different idea. Again, using our dies that you would never think of for a holiday with something holiday related. The background is another one that I had in my stash. I don't even want to venture a guess. So I'll pull this die out and I'll put it on the product list. But it was great that I could just pull something out, and skeleton, Mr. Bones, and the dice worked on it. So while I was playing with this, I thought, well, I'm going to make another skeleton for the pool. So here's my guy ready to play pool. Again, he's same skeleton, except this time I altered his arm a little. I trimmed this off here and then trimmed it at the elbow so I could move these bones around. So he looked a little more natural. The arm to trim it and put it down in the shape just does not look very natural. So I made my pool balls. He's got his cue. He is ready to go. So again, if you have somebody who likes to play pool, this might be an idea. Not a traditional Halloween card, but something that's fun and using our other dies as well. So this is the end of Halloween for this year. Coming up, we'll be focused on Thanksgiving and the winter holidays. But I hope this gives you some ideas to pull out dies that you would never think of using, maybe for Christmas or for Thanksgiving or for any other holiday that you like, and try it out. See what you can combine and get even more use out of your favorite dies. So happy Halloween and thank you for joining me. I'll see you again in a future video.